So the expedition brought us to Kathmandu in Nepal, where we met so many people. I met so many people. We passed through Abu Dhabi, we passed through different airports. We stayed a few days in Kathmandu, getting to know each other first before we headed off. And when we did, it was pretty exciting. I had heard about this Inuk also, who is from Greenland. His name is Nick. And I heard that he was going to try for the summit. And I connected with him by email, and we met together in Kathmandu. And the following year, I heard that he succeeded in going to the summit. Yeah. His name is Nick, and he's known by everyone in Greenland, in Akukituit. And when we go, we stop at a community Sherpa town first, and that's where the trek starts. It's called Lukla, and to arrive there, we go by Twin Otter. And I guess most of you have been on Twin Otter, and so the experience was very actually familiar for me, except that going on the Twin Otter, we were going in the midst of mountains and going very high and landed in between mountains. So it was very, very exciting. The scenery was just magnificent. And most of the days were just beautiful as well. So when we took off, the expedition is all prepared by organizers. It's a company. There are many companies, and the Sherpa take advantage of the tourists and trekkers that come in, and they organize expeditions for tourists. So we were a bit like tourists, although we were a group. We were a group of 18 people, Canadians. And all our stuff were carried by the yak from Nepal. So we started off at a place called Lukla, which was a Sherpa town, and gradually began climbing. Now, to climb in high altitudes, to climb up to high altitudes, it takes physical adjustment. So even if one might have the physical capacity to climb very fast and very high, it's suggested not to do that because the body has to adjust. So the average climb that we did was 300 meters a day in order for the body to adjust. If we go too high, we can have a headache, we can have lung problems, and it just, it depends on the person as well, on the physiognomy of the person. But we followed the valley and the river, climbed. It didn't require any technical ability to follow this trail, but it required good stamina, good cardiovascular health, and good, strong muscles and regular training to be able to do that. So we went as a group and we stayed together as a group, and we had a really nice time together. We were 18 people, I mentioned quickly, and you know, as a group, it's possible that not everybody gets along. You might have arguments with certain people, it's normal, but in this case, we all got along really well. We had a really good leader in Sean. The trail also included crossing the river that we were following as we were climbing. We crossed it actually several times, and we had to use these old bridges once in a while. Not too scary. Every time we stopped, we camped in tents, and these tents were set up for us every night. As we got up every morning, we would walk for a few hours, and then at the end of the day, our tents would already be set up by the Sherpa who were working for us. And this is a town called Namche Bazaar, which is where most trekkers on their way to the base camp stop. We stayed there for a couple of days. It's very much like a tourist town as well. But a lot of the local people build their own buildings and they use them as hotels for trekkers like us. Namche Bazaar took us about 4 days to get to. In total, the number of days we took was 10 days of not long day walks. Sometimes the walk was 4 hours, sometimes it was 6 hours. So it just depended on the organization. And all along the route, we were going through a park which does not have roads. It's not allowed by the Nepalese government to construct a road or to have cars driving through the park. They like to keep it protected, but there is a trail that is maintained by local people in order to be able to welcome the trekkers. We stopped at various places, towns. We saw temples. We met a monk. We had just one day where we had snow. If you look at the images carefully, these are a couple of yaks walking down a trail covered with snow. They blend into the landscape. One day we stopped at a place called Dukla, and I wanted to meet local people. And I asked one of our Sherpa guides to come with me and be my interpreter. So it's the first time I had to hire an interpreter myself. And I went to visit this family. The husband was 71 years old, and they are here. The couple is sitting here with their daughter, who was outside a bit earlier, tending to a potato garden. And she came in afterwards to see, well, who was the visitor. And I asked them, a little bit about their history, where they'd been to, and showed them also a couple of pamphlets about Inuit. And when I showed them a photo of a man from Inukjuak, this man said, "Oh, he looks like he's from Tibet," as they look exactly like Inuit too in this area. And they served me this, I think it was rice wine that they make, and they served it warm to make me feel welcome in their home. They accepted me just like that. It was very nice of them. Yeah. So all along the route, we saw children from Nepal. There's different groups of cultures in Nepal. It's mostly like Indian or Hindu people with different religions. So it was also a nice discovery to see the various religious influences in the country. The Sherpa are Buddhist, and they mostly live further north of the Kathmandu area, which is hugely populated by Hindu, and which is more Hinduism over there. So there's different religions side by side. And these are a few of our Sherpa guides who stayed all along the trail with us. And as we climb higher and higher, above 4,000 meters, the air becomes thinner and thinner, and people, sometimes they want to go fast, and then there are those who go at a slower pace. I found that when I was going, even just walking a bit faster, my breath was having a lot of, it was a little bit harder to breathe. It was not painful, but the oxygen was taking more effort to get into my lungs. So they would advise us, just go slow. There's no need to go fast. We kept at a good pace. You can see how just beautiful it was. We're not too far from the base camp now, here. All along the route, when we started out, it was a treed forest area, but as we got higher and higher, it became more like tundra, and it reminded me of home, except for the mountains, they were beautiful. And I also went, one thing that's important to when you do something exciting, an adventure, you also want to do it with a loved one. I went with my husband when he saw the opportunity to go. He did his best to save up some money and be able to come along as well, as there was space. He didn't have to do a competition. He was very lucky. After, when we were at the, this is a view from a mountain, which is like 5,300 meters in altitude. And down below, I took a picture. This is where you see Mount Everest. That's the mountain in the background there. It's Everest. And down below, you also see like a glacier going, curving down. And actually, the base camp is over there at the curve. As we were walking on the trail going toward the base camp, we were walking alongside this glacier. It's called the Khumbu Glacier, yes. And it's very dry at this altitude. And as you walk, sometimes you catch this cough, and so it's called the Khumbu cough. And the lungs get congested, and I had to deal with that. And so it's a little difficult depending on the person. But we all made it. Some people had a headache for a few days. I had a headache the first day, and you take a few days to adjust to that. The oxygen at this level is only 50% of the oxygen at sea level. And so every little movement, every little walk, even if it's just 5 minutes, your breathing, your breath is taking a lot of effort. It's just going to the washroom was quite a lot of effort. So that's why when people go there to the base camp, they stay there a month to really adjust before they start tackling the summit. And then just tackling the summit itself takes months. It may take 3 months. But our goal was to arrive at the base camp. And so we were very happy. I was very happy. I was the only one celebrating, actually, when we arrived over there. Hey! Everybody else seemed to have arrived like, yeah, we made it. Excitable nature.